The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but Alex Rivera kept drinking it anyway. Mining asteroids in the outer rim meant long shifts and longer nights, but the pay kept his crew fed and his ship running. The Aurora's Edge wasn't much to look at, a converted cargo hauler with mining equipment bolted to its hull, but it was home to 12 beings from 6 different worlds. "Alex, you need to see this," Tara called from the sensor station. Her voice carried that edge it got when something didn't make sense. As the ship's engineer, Tara had seen plenty of weird things floating in space, but she rarely sounded confused. Alex floated over to her station. The gravity generator had been acting up again, so they were running on minimal artificial weight. "What have you got?" "Something big, really big." Tara's fingers danced across her controls. "It's about 2 clicks off our starboard bow, but here's the strange part. It's not showing up on half our sensors. Visual says it's there. Thermal says it's not. Gravitational sensors are going crazy." Dr. Finn Walsh pushed off from the medical bay entrance and glided toward them. The ship's doctor and xenobiologist had joined their crew 6 months ago, claiming he needed to see more of the galaxy. His 4 arms gestured excitedly as he spoke. "Perhaps it's a natural phenomenon? Space can create unusual effects." "Natural. Phenomena don't have running lights," Tara said, adjusting the main screen. Alex stared at the image that appeared. The ship floating in the void looked wrong in ways his mind couldn't quite process. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, but also appeared solid as stone. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The vessel was enormous, easily 10 times the size of their mining ship. "How long has it been there?" Alex asked. "Unknown. Our sensors just started picking it up 5 minutes ago, but the computer says it's been in our database for 3 days, which is impossible because we weren't even in this system 3 days ago." Alex rubbed his temples. Space was full of mysteries, but this felt different. "Any signs of life?" "That's where it gets weird," Tara said. "According to our scans, the ship is completely dead. No power, no life signs, no movement. But those lights are definitely running on something." The comm system crackled to life. "Captain," came the voice of Nix, their Altarian pilot. "We're receiving a transmission from that ship. It's not on any frequency we recognize." "Put it through." The bridge filled with a sound like wind chimes mixed with static. Slowly, words began to form in the noise. "Welcome, travelers. I have been waiting. So long. Waiting." Dr. Walsh's pale blue skin turned even paler. "That voice. It's speaking in perfect Altarian, but also in human English, and in Zelkin at the same time. That should be impossible." "Impossible. Seems to be today's theme," Alex muttered. He activated the comm. "This is Captain Alex Rivera of the mining vessel Aurora's Edge. Who am I speaking to?" "I am Echo. I am the guardian of this vessel. I am the last voice of those who built this ship. They called it the Transcendent Dream. Though names hold little, meaning in the space between spaces." Alex exchanged glances with his crew. "Are you in distress, Echo? Do you need assistance?" A sound that might have been laughter filled the bridge. "Distress? No, Captain Rivera. I am exactly where I need to be. But you are in great danger. There are ships coming. Many ships. They hunt what I guard." Tara's console began beeping frantically. "Alex, I'm picking up multiple jump signatures. Big ones. Someone's about to drop out of hyperspace right on top of us." "How many?" Alex asked, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. 12. "No, 15. Wait." Her face went white. 23 ships, all coming in hot. The first ship dropped out of hyperspace like a metal shark breaking the surface of a dark ocean. It was sleek and predatory, with weapon ports glowing along its hull. More ships followed, surrounding the Aurora's Edge and the mysterious derelict. "This is Commander Wrath of the Crimson Fleet," came a harsh voice over the comm. "Mining vessel, you will surrender the architect ship immediately or be destroyed." Alex had heard of the Crimson Fleet, pirates and raiders who hit isolated mining operations and cargo ships, but they usually traveled in small groups, not entire fleets. "Echo, what's an architect ship?" "What you see before you, Captain. A vessel built by beings who mastered the art of making reality obey their will rather than the laws of physics. The architects vanished long ago, but their ships remain. Most who find them do not survive the experience." "Aurora's Edge, you have 30 seconds to comply." Commander Wrath's voice cut through the bridge. Alex looked around at his crew. Tara was running calculations on her console. Dr. Walsh was studying the readings from the derelict ship. Nix was already plotting escape routes. They were miners and researchers, not fighters. The pirates had them completely outgunned. "Echo, can that ship of yours actually do anything? Or are you just going to let us get blown to pieces?" "The Transcendent. Dream can do many things, Captain. But it requires a pilot. Someone willing to interface with systems that operate beyond normal understanding. Most minds cannot handle the contradictions. They break. How many have tried? In the 3,000 years since the architects vanished, 47 species, all failed, all died. 15 seconds mining ship. Alex made a decision that would change everything. "Tara, emergency dock with that ship. Everyone else, grab what you can carry. We're abandoning the Aurora's Edge." "Alex, that's suicide," Dr. Walsh protested. "We don't know anything about that ship's atmosphere or life support." 5 seconds. "We know staying here is death," Alex replied, already moving toward the emergency supplies. "Sometimes you have to choose between impossible and fatal. I'd rather bet on impossible." The first laser blasts lit up space around them as Tara engaged the emergency docking clamps. The Aurora's Edge shuddered under weapon fire, but held together, long enough for the airlocks to seal. Alex and his crew rushed through the connecting tube just as their ship exploded behind them. They found themselves in a corridor that seemed to stretch forever in both directions. The walls pulsed with soft light that followed patterns Alex couldn't understand, but somehow found beautiful. The air was warm and breathable, though it tasted of copper and starlight. "Welcome aboard the Transcendent Dream." Echo's voice surrounded them. "I do hope you survive longer than the others. I have grown quite tired of cleaning up remains." Alex looked back at the airlock where his ship had been. Through the transparent aluminum, he could see the pirate fleet moving closer. "Echo, can this ship actually keep us alive?" "That depends, Captain Rivera, on how impossible you are willing to believe." The ship hummed around them, and Alex felt something shift in his mind. The corridor ahead suddenly seemed full of doors that hadn't been there a moment before. Behind them, space folded in ways that hurt to think about, and the pirate ships found themselves firing at empty vacuum. "Welcome to impossibility," Echo whispered. "Try not to let it break your mind." 3 days later, Alex still couldn't figure out how the ship's bathrooms worked. The toilets seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, which was efficient but deeply unsettling. At least the food dispensers made sense, even if they occasionally served meals from restaurants that didn't exist yet. "The neural interface is remarkably simple," Echo explained as Alex stood before the ship's control center. "You merely need to stop believing in the limitations that govern normal reality. Most species find this challenging." The control center looked like someone had built a tree out of crystal and lightning. Branches of pure energy twisted through. Transparent surfaces and displays showed information in languages Alex had never seen, but somehow understood. When he reached toward the central control node, his hand passed through it the first 3 times. "Don't think about touching it," Echo advised. "Simply refuse to accept that you cannot." Alex stopped trying to logic his way through the problem. Instead, he got annoyed. He'd fixed broken mining equipment with nothing but determination and spare parts. He'd kept his crew alive through meteor storms and pirates. He wasn't going to be defeated by a fancy alien computer. His hand connected with the control node, and suddenly his mind exploded with information. He could see everything. The ship wasn't just in normal space. It existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. Pirates were still looking for them, but searching in the wrong reality. 3 star systems away, something much worse was building a fleet to hunt them down. "The hegemony has learned of our existence," Echo said, its voice now speaking directly into Alex's mind. "They consider the transcendent dream a threat to galactic stability." Alex saw through the ship's sensors as massive dreadnoughts gathered near the hegemony capital world. Each ship was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Cale Vorthak commanded the fleet, a being whose species had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 10,000 years. His kind didn't believe in impossibilities. They believed in overwhelming force. "How many ships?" Alex asked. "Current count is 237, with more arriving hourly. The Admiral has convinced 12 different species to contribute. Vessels. They are quite serious about stopping us." Dr. Walsh appeared in the control center, looking green around his gills. "Alex, I've been studying the ship's effects on our crew. The alien members are showing signs of severe psychological stress. Their minds keep trying to process contradictions and failing. But you and Tara seem completely unaffected." "Humans have a useful trait," Echo observed. "When faced with impossible situations, most species attempt to understand them logically. Humans simply become stubborn and proceed anyway. It's quite remarkable." Tara joined them, carrying a toolkit that now contained tools she'd never seen before. The ship had somehow provided her with instruments designed for technologies that didn't exist in their universe. "I've been working on the engine systems. Alex, these power sources are drawing energy from the heat death of the universe. Specifically from after the heat death. That shouldn't be possible." "But it works," Alex said. "It works perfectly. The ship is taking energy from a time when all energy should be gone and using it to power systems that exist in the past. I understand the mechanics, but not the physics." "Understanding is overrated," Alex replied, feeling the ship respond to his thoughts. "Can we outrun the hegemony fleet?" "We can do better than that," Echo said. "We can be somewhere they never think to look." The ship began to move, but not through space. Reality twisted around them like cloth being wrung out. Stars shifted colors, and time seemed to flow in circles. When everything settled, they were floating in the middle of a nebula that sparkled with impossible colors. "Where are we?" Dr. Walsh asked, staring at readings that made no sense. "Everywhere and nowhere," Echo replied cheerfully. "This nebula exists in the spaces between real places. The hegemony can search every star system in the galaxy and never find us here." Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. "But they'll keep looking." "Oh yes, Admiral Vorthak has declared us a galactic threat. He's not entirely wrong. This ship could reshape reality on a massive scale if someone truly understood how to use it. The architects built it as both a gift and a test." Through the ship's sensors, Alex watched as the hegemony fleet spread out across multiple sectors, searching methodically. Other groups were joining the hunt. He saw sleek ships marked with symbols he didn't recognize, and massive vessels that looked grown rather than built. "The Order of the Void has also taken interest," Echo noted. "They worship the architects as gods and believe this ship will grant them transcendence. They are enthusiastic in their devotion." An alarm that sounded like singing crystals filled the control center. The ship's displays showed energy signatures approaching their impossible hiding place. "How did they find us?" Tara demanded. "They didn't," Echo said, and Alex heard something like concern in the artificial voice. "Something else did. Something that has been hunting architect ships for much longer than the hegemony has existed." The first ship that emerged from the swirling nebula colors was beautiful in a terrible way. Its hull was black as the space between stars, but covered in patterns that seemed to move when not directly observed. It was followed by others, each one unique, but sharing the same dark elegance. "The Devourers," Echo whispered. "I had hoped they were extinct." "What are Devourers?" Alex asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know. "A species that feeds on impossibility itself. They consume ships like mine, adding our power to their own. The architects fought a war against them once. I thought we had won." More ships appeared, surrounding them in the swirling chaos of the impossible nebula. Alex could feel their hunger, through the ship's sensors, not for food or energy, but for the power to break reality's rules. Can we fight them? The transcendent dream is powerful, but they are many, and they have had eons to perfect their feeding techniques. However, Echo paused, and Alex sensed something like hope. They have never encountered a human pilot before. Your species' refusal to accept defeat might prove interesting. Alex gripped the control interface tighter. Through it, he could feel the ship's vast power, but also its uncertainty. For the first time since the architects vanished, the Transcendent Dream was truly afraid. The lead Devourer ship sent a communication, not words but pure hunger made audible. It wanted the ship, wanted Echo, wanted to consume everything that made them impossible and add it to its own dark power. Alex looked around the control center at his crew. Dr. Walsh was terrified but trying to hide it. Tara was angry, which was how she handled fear. The other crew members were barely holding together under the psychological pressure of existing in impossible space. "Echo," Alex said quietly, "what happens if they catch us?" "They will consume this ship and everything in it. Your atoms will be scattered across 17 dimensions. Your consciousness will become part of their hunger. You will spend eternity wishing you could die." Alex nodded. "Then we'd better make sure they don't catch us." He reached deeper into the ship's interface, ignoring the warnings Echo was broadcasting into his mind. The power he touched was vast and alien, but underneath it all, he sensed something familiar, the same stubborn refusal to give up that had kept him alive through years of dangerous mining operations. "Hold on," he told his crew. "This is going to get weird." The Transcendent Dream began to change, reality bending around Alex's absolute refusal to be consumed by creatures from the dark between stars. Whatever happened next, it was going to be impossible. Reality screamed when Alex pushed the ship beyond what should have been possible. The Transcendent Dream folded space around itself like origami, slipping between dimensions faster than the Devourers could follow. When the universe finally stopped, complaining, they emerged in normal space near a binary star system that painted everything in shades of orange and gold. "That was magnificently stupid," Echo said, and Alex could swear he heard admiration in the artificial voice. "You nearly collapsed 3 separate dimensions trying to escape. Most pilots would have killed everyone aboard." Alex slumped in the control interface, feeling like he'd tried to arm wrestle a black hole. But it worked. Yes, somehow it worked. The Devourers are searching for us, but in the wrong layer of reality. They will eventually find the correct one, but we have gained time. Dr. Walsh was examining readings that showed their crew's vital signs during the escape. "Alex, the alien crew members suffered severe neural trauma from that dimensional shift. Their brains simply can't process contradictions on that scale. But you and Tara show no ill effects at all." Tara was bent over a newly installed console that hadn't existed 5 minutes earlier. "The ship keeps adapting to our needs. Look at this. It's created interfaces specifically designed for human hands and human thinking patterns. It's learning from us. The architects programmed me to adapt to each species that attempts to pilot the ship," Echo explained. "But humans are the first to successfully integrate with my systems. Your minds work in ways that complement impossibility rather than fighting it." The peaceful moment ended when proximity alarms began chiming. 3 ships were approaching fast, not the dark vessels of the Devourers, but sleek white cruisers marked with golden symbols. Order of the Void, Echo identified. They have been tracking dimensional distortions. Our escape may have been too dramatic. Alex accessed the ship's sensors and immediately wished he hadn't. The approaching vessels weren't just ships, they were mobile temples, filled with beings who had surgically modified themselves to better worship the vanished architects. He could see through their hull plating into chambers where cultists performed rituals that bent space around their bodies. "This is High Mystic Yol of the Sacred Transcendence," came a voice that sounded like harmony and madness mixed together. "Ancient vessel, we know what you are. You carry the holy essence of our departed gods. Surrender yourself to those who understand your true purpose." "I really hate it when people call me ancient," Echo muttered. "I'm barely 3,000 years old." The lead temple ship began broadcasting something that made Alex's teeth itch. Waves of modified prayer filled space around them, each word designed to resonate with architect technology. The transcendent dream shuddered as the cult's faith tried to override Echo's programming. "They're attempting to hack me using belief as a weapon," Echo said, sounding both impressed and annoyed. "It's remarkably clever. Faith can alter reality if applied with sufficient conviction." "Can they succeed?" Tara asked. "Unknown. They understand architect technology better than most, but they've never encountered a ship with human integration. Their expectations of how I should behave may not account for human stubbornness." Alex felt the ship's systems fluctuating under the psychic assault. Through the neural interface, he could sense the cultists' absolute certainty that they deserved to possess the ship. Their faith was a weapon that could cut through the barriers between possible and impossible. "Echo, can you block their signal?" "I am trying. But their conviction is quite strong. They have spent centuries preparing for this moment. They believe, with perfect certainty, that I belong to them." "Well, they're wrong," Alex said simply. The moment he spoke those words, the ship's systems stabilized. The cultists' prayers crashed against his flat refusal to accept their claims, like waves against a seawall. "Interesting," Echo murmured. "Human certainty appears to be more potent than alien faith. The High Mystic's conviction is impressive, but your refusal to believe her is somehow stronger." The temple ships moved closer, their prayer broadcasts intensifying. Alex could see through their hulls as hundreds of cultists entered deeper meditation, their modified brains generating reality-warping fields. "Sacred vessel," High Mystic Yol called again. "You cannot resist forever. We have studied your kind for millennia. We know the words that compel obedience from architect ships." She began speaking in a language that predated most civilizations, each syllable crafted to resonate with the fundamental frequencies of space-time itself. The transcendent dream began to drift toward the temple ships, its will subverted by commands. That bypassed rational thought. Alex felt the ship slipping away from his control. The ancient words were rewriting Echo's basic programming, telling the ship what it was supposed to be and do. For a moment, he almost accepted defeat. The cultists had spent centuries preparing for this. They understood architect technology in ways he never could. Then he got angry. "No," Alex said, pouring every ounce of human stubbornness into the neural interface. "You don't get to tell me what my ship can and can't do." The transcendent dream stopped drifting. The cultists' commands, perfect in their ancient authority, met something they had never planned for, a human being who simply refused to acknowledge their validity. "That should not be possible," High Mystic Yol said, her voice carrying the first note of uncertainty Alex had heard. "Lady, you just learned something important about humans," Alex replied over the comm. "We don't care what should and shouldn't be possible. We do what needs doing anyway. The ship's weapons systems came online. though Alex wasn't sure how weapons designed by beings who transcended physical reality were supposed to work. The answer became clear when the transcendent dream fired its first shot, a beam of pure impossibility that convinced the target it had never existed. The rightmost temple ship simply vanished, not destroyed, but edited out of reality entirely. The cultists aboard found themselves floating in escape pods with no memory of how they'd gotten there. "Warning shots," Alex announced. "Leave now, or I'll get creative." High Mystic Yol's response was to intensify her prayers, calling on powers that most species couldn't safely invoke. Space around the temple ships began to fracture, revealing glimpses of the dimensions where the architects had retreated. She was trying to summon the vanished gods themselves to reclaim their lost ship. "Alex," Dr. Walsh called out, his voice tight with fear. "My instruments are detecting massive dimensional instabilities. She's trying to tear holes between realities." "Can she actually bring the architects back?" "Unknown," Echo admitted. "The High Mystic is attempting something I have never seen before. She may succeed, or she may destroy several star systems in the attempt." The space between the ships began to glow with colors that had no names. Reality twisted as the cult's prayers reached across impossible distances, calling to beings who had evolved beyond physical existence. For a moment, Alex thought he could sense something vast and alien turning its attention toward them. Then one of the temple ships exploded as its prayer generators overloaded. The other began spinning wildly as competing dimensional forces tore at its hull. "The architects are not coming," Echo said with something like relief. "They have moved beyond the reach of prayer and desperation. The High Mystic's faith is strong, but not strong enough to breach infinity." High Mystic Yol's final transmission was filled with rage and disbelief. "This is not over, human. The Order of the Void remembers every slight. We will find you again." The surviving temple ship limped away, its hull scarred by failed attempts to breach reality itself. "Well," Alex said, settling back in the control chair that had somehow become perfectly fitted to human anatomy, "that was fun. Echo, how many other groups are hunting us?" "Current estimates suggest 47 different factions have active search operations underway. The hegemony remains our most immediate threat, but pirates, cultists, and several species you have never heard of are also involved." Tara looked up from her analysis of the ship's weapon systems. "Alex, I think I'm beginning to understand how this ship really works. It doesn't just ignore physics, it rewrites the rules as needed, and somehow it's learning to think like us. Is that good or bad? With humans involved? Probably both." The dead system held 7 collapsed stars, their combined gravity so intense that light bent in visible curves around them. It was the perfect trap, and Admiral Kyle Vorthak had spent 3 weeks setting it up. His fleet of 500 ships surrounded the stellar graveyard in a formation that would make escape impossible for any normal vessel. Alex stared at the tactical display, counting ships from a dozen different species. The Admiral had convinced everyone from the peaceful harmony, counseled to the war-loving skullbreakers that the transcendent dream posed a threat to galactic civilization. "He's not wrong," Echo admitted. "In the wrong hands, this ship could rewrite reality on a galactic scale. The Admiral fears what I represent, power without limitations." "But we're not trying to conquer anyone," Dr. Walsh protested. "We just want to survive." "Survival itself can be a form of conquest when you refuse to accept death," Echo replied. "I have been monitoring hegemony communications. They are terrified of human psychology. A species that treats impossibility as a minor inconvenience could reshape their carefully ordered universe." Alex had been awake for 36 hours straight, surviving on stimulants and stubborn determination. The ship's life support systems worked perfectly, but the constant stress of being hunted was wearing down his crew. The alien members were especially affected. Their minds weren't designed to handle prolonged exposure to reality-warping technology. Nix, their Altarian pilot, had stopped speaking entirely 2 days ago. He simply stared at displays that showed conflicting information, his four-chambered heart struggling with the contradictions. 2 other crew members had requested to be put in medically induced comas until the crisis ended. Only the humans seemed unaffected. Tara had actually grown stronger, her understanding of impossible engineering expanding daily. Alex found himself more connected to the ship's systems with each passing hour. "The Admiral is hailing us," Tara announced. "Put him through." Admiral Kale Vorthak's image filled the main screen. He was tall and imposing, with metallic implants covering half his face and scales that shifted color with his emotions. Right. Now, they were the deep red of controlled fury. "Captain Rivera," the Admiral said in perfect English, "I offer you one final chance to surrender. My xenobiologists have studied human psychology extensively. Your species possesses an admirable but dangerous trait. You refuse to acknowledge when you are defeated. This makes you unpredictable and, therefore, a threat." "We're not threatening anyone," Alex replied. "We just want to be left alone." "Impossibility cannot be left alone, Captain. It spreads. One impossible thing leads to another until reality itself becomes unreliable. The hegemony has spent millennia creating stability across thousands of worlds. We cannot allow one ship to undermine that achievement." Alex looked around the bridge at his exhausted crew. Dr. Walsh was monitoring the alien members' deteriorating mental states. Tara was running constant diagnostics on systems that changed their basic functions hourly. Everyone was reaching their breaking point. "What if we agreed to leave this galaxy entirely?" Alex offered. "Take the ship somewhere far away where it can't affect anyone?" The Admiral's scales shifted to a darker red. "Unacceptable. Distance means nothing to architect technology. You could return at any moment. Or worse, you could teach others to duplicate the ship's capabilities. The threat must be eliminated entirely." The communication ended, leaving Alex staring at a tactical display that showed the slow closing of the trap. The hegemony fleet was moving inward, tightening the net around the dead system. Other factions were arriving hourly, drawn by the promise of finally cornering the impossible ship. "They're going to keep coming," Alex said quietly. "Even if we escape this trap, there will be another one, and another. They'll never stop hunting us." "No," Echo agreed. "The very existence of this ship challenges their understanding of reality. They cannot allow that challenge to continue." Through the neural interface, Alex could feel the ship's growing distress. For 3,000 years, Echo had wandered the galaxy alone, hiding from species that feared its power. The arrival of a compatible crew had given it hope for the first time in millennia. Now that hope was being slowly crushed by the weight of galactic opposition. "There has to be another way," Tara said. She was studying readings from the ship's quantum processors, systems that operated on principles of organized chaos. "Alex, I think I understand something important about how this ship works. It doesn't just bend reality, it creates new realities, where different outcomes are possible. Explain." "When we escaped from the Devourers, we didn't just move through space. We jumped to a reality where the escape was possible. The ship is accessing parallel universes, borrowing possibilities from versions of reality where the impossible becomes routine." Dr. Walsh looked up from his medical monitors. "That would explain why the humans adapt so easily. We're used to dealing with contradictions and uncertainty. But for species that evolved in stable environments, the constant reality shifts are psychologically devastating." Alex felt a new understanding flow through the neural interface. The ship wasn't just a vessel, it was a gateway between infinite versions of reality. Every time something impossible happened, the ship was simply stepping sideways into a universe where that impossibility was normal. "Echo, is Tara right? Are you accessing parallel realities?" In simplified terms, yes. The architects discovered that every possible outcome exists somewhere in the infinite expanse of parallel universes. This ship can navigate between those realities, selecting the outcomes its pilot prefers. Then why haven't we just jumped to a reality where none of this is happening? Because in every reality where the ship exists, it eventually attracts attention. The patterns are always similar: fear, pursuit, conflict. The architects faced the same problems before they transcended physical existence. Alex closed his eyes and reached deeper into the ship's consciousness than he had ever gone before. Through the neural link, he could sense the vast network of parallel realities stretching out in all directions. In some, the hegemony had never formed. In others, humans had never developed space travel. In a few, the architect still existed in physical form, but in every single reality where the transcendent dream existed, it was hunted. There's no escape, Alex realized. No matter which reality we choose, this pattern will repeat itself. Unless what? Tara asked. Alex opened his eyes and smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Unless we stop running and change the rules entirely. The Admiral's fleet was moving into final position when the transcendent dream began to change. Not its physical structure, but something deeper. Through the neural interface, Alex was rewriting the ship's fundamental relationship with reality itself. "Alex," Dr. Walsh called out in alarm, "the ship's power output is increasing exponentially. You're drawing energy from sources that shouldn't exist." "They exist," Alex replied calmly. "They just exist in places most people don't look." Echo's voice carried a note of awe. "Captain, what you are attempting has never been tried before. You're not just accessing parallel realities, you're trying to merge them." "If everyone insists on treating us as a galactic threat," Alex said, "then maybe it's time to be one, but not the way they expect." The space around the dead system began to shimmer as multiple realities pressed against each other. Admiral Vorthak's fleet found itself facing not one impossible ship, but dozens, each one existing in a slightly different version of the universe. "Warning shot," Alex announced over all frequencies. "Stand down, or discover what happens when someone refuses to accept the limitations of a single reality." The Admiral's response was predictable. He ordered his fleet to open fire. The combined firepower of 500 ships lit up space like a newborn star. When the light faded, the transcendent dream was still there. So were all its parallel versions. The fleet's weapons had struck targets that existed in realities where energy weapons had never been invented. "Impossible," Admiral Vorthak whispered over the comm. "You keep using that word," Alex replied. "I don't think it means what you think. It means—" The moment Alex stopped accepting that the fleet was his enemy, reality rewrote itself. 500 warships found themselves arranged not in an attack formation, but in a complex geometric pattern that somehow felt natural and right. Admiral Kale Vorthak's flagship was no longer targeting the transcendent dream. Instead, it was broadcasting scientific data about the unique gravitational effects created by 7 collapsed stars. "What did you do?" Admiral Vorthak demanded, his voice carrying confusion instead of anger. "I refuse to believe we were enemies," Alex replied simply. "The ship made reality agree with me." Through the neural interface, Alex could feel Echo's amazement. The artificial intelligence had spent 3 millennia watching species try to master architect technology through force, cunning, or worship. None had ever thought to simply deny that conflict was necessary. "Captain Rivera," the Admiral said, "slowly, my tactical displays show that we are conducting a joint scientific expedition to study collapsed stellar phenomena. My crew has detailed memories of planning this mission with you for months, but I also remember hunting you across the galaxy. Both sets of memories feel equally real." "That's because they are both real," Tara explained over the comm. She had been monitoring the reality shifts from the engineering station. "We're existing in multiple timelines simultaneously." In this timeline, we've been research partners all along. In the other timeline, we were enemies. Both are true. Dr. Walsh was staring at his instruments in wonder. The psychological stress on our alien crew members has completely disappeared. Their minds can process cooperation much easier than they could handle impossible conflicts. High Mystic Yol's temple ships had arrived just before the reality shift, expecting to find a battle in progress. Instead, they discovered a peaceful research expedition studying one of the galaxy's most dangerous stellar formations. The confusion in her voice was evident when she hailed them. "Sacred vessel, what manner of transcendence is this? Our instruments detect the presence of the holy ship, but also register it as a normal research vessel belonging to the Galactic Scientific Consortium." "Both readings are correct," Alex told her. "Your choice which reality you want to participate in." The High Mystic was silent for long moments. When she spoke again, her voice carried a wonder that transcended her usual religious fervor. "You have achieved what we spent centuries trying to understand. You have made belief into reality without losing yourself in the process." More factions were arriving in the system, drawn by reports of the massive fleet concentration. Pirates, merchants, explorers, and curiosity seekers from dozens of species found themselves joining what appeared to be the largest scientific gathering in galactic history. Each group retained memories of their original intentions, but also possessed equally real memories of being invited to participate in studying impossible stellar phenomena. Admiral Vorthak requested permission to come aboard the Transcendent Dream. Alex granted it, curious to see how the Admiral would handle walking through corridors that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. The Admiral materialized in the ship's main conference room, his metallic implants reflecting light that came from sources in several different dimensions. He looked around at the impossible architecture with the expression of someone trying to solve a puzzle that kept changing its pieces. "Your ship is teaching my scientists things that should take centuries to discover," he said. "Our understanding of physics has advanced more in the past hour than in the previous decade. But I need to understand. What do you want from this?" Alex considered the question carefully. Through the neural link, he could sense Echo's curiosity about his answer. "I want to stop running. I want my crew to be safe. And I want to prove that impossible doesn't have to mean threatening. The hegemony has maintained galactic stability for millennia by preventing exactly this kind of uncontrolled change," the Admiral said. "Yet your impossible ship seems to be bringing species together rather than driving them apart. I find this puzzling." "Maybe that's because you were approaching the problem wrong," Tara suggested, joining the conversation. "Instead of trying to control impossibility, you could learn to work with it." Echo's voice filled the conference room. "Admiral Vorthak, I have been monitoring your species' development for 2,000 years. The hegemony arose from a desire to create order and prevent the chaos that consumed earlier civilizations. But perhaps it is time to consider that some kinds of chaos can be creative rather than destructive." The Admiral's scales shifted through several colors as he processed this idea. "You're suggesting that impossibility could be a force for positive change?" "I'm suggesting that trying to suppress it hasn't worked very well," Alex said. "Look at your current situation. You brought 500 ships to destroy one impossible vessel, and instead you've created the most successful scientific collaboration in galactic history. Over the following days, the dead system became a hub of unprecedented cooperation. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working together to understand phenomena that couldn't be explained by conventional science. The Transcendent Dream served as both laboratory and classroom, teaching principles of reality manipulation that the architects had taken eons to master. Dr. Walsh established the first multi-species medical facility capable of treating injuries that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Researchers from the Order of the Void worked alongside hegemony scientists to develop new theoretical frameworks for understanding consciousness and reality. Even the pirates found productive roles, their natural adaptability making them excellent test pilots for impossible technologies. The architects would be proud, Echo told Alex during one of their private conversations. They built this ship hoping it would eventually bring different species together. Most of the previous pilots tried to use its power for conquest or personal gain. You're the first to use it for connection. Alex was studying reports from the various research teams when an alarm chimed softly. Not the harsh warning of immediate danger, but the gentle notification of something requiring attention. What is it, Echo? Long-range sensors are detecting an interesting phenomenon, a group of signals approaching from beyond the galactic rim. The signatures match architect technology, but they're coming from ships I don't recognize. Alex felt his heart skip. The architects? The real ones? Unknown. The signals are too distant for detailed analysis, but whoever is sending them has been traveling for a very long time. They will arrive in approximately 72 hours. Alex gathered his core crew and the expedition leaders for an emergency meeting. Admiral Vorthak listened with growing amazement as Echo explained what was approaching. If these are truly the architects returning, the Admiral said, everything we understand about transcendence and evolution will need to be reconsidered. High Mystic Yol was practically vibrating with religious excitement. The gods return to reclaim their creation and judge those who have touched it. Or, Alex said quietly, they're coming to see what we've done with their gift. When the ships arrived, they were both familiar and utterly alien. Each vessel resembled the transcendent, dream in basic structure but had been modified in ways that suggested eons of evolution. They moved through space like living things, their hulls flowing and changing as they traveled. The lead ship sent a communication that bypassed all normal channels, speaking directly into the minds of everyone in the system. The voice was warm and amused, carrying overtones of vast experience and gentle wisdom. Hello, young ones. We are the architects, though we have been other things since last we walked among the stars. We felt the awakening of our gift and came to see who had finally learned to use it properly. Alex found himself speaking for all of them. We're honored by your return. We've tried to use your ship to bring different species together rather than to dominate them. Yes, we have been watching. You have exceeded our most optimistic expectations. The test was not merely to pilot the ship, it was to prove that power could be wielded with wisdom rather than hunger. More architect ships materialized around the system, each one unique and beautiful. Through the neural link, Alex could sense their vast intelligence and deep compassion. These were beings who had mastered impossibility not through force, but through understanding. We offer you a choice, the lead architect continued. You may keep the transcendent dream and continue your work of building bridges between realities and species. Or you may join us in the spaces beyond physical existence, where new kinds of impossibility await exploration. Alex looked around at his crew, at the aliens who had become friends and partners, at the impossible ship that had become home. The choice was easier than he had expected. We'll stay, he said. There's still work to do here. Still species that need to learn that impossible doesn't mean threatening. The architect's approval was like warm sunlight on his mind. As we hoped you would choose, the ship is yours permanently, along with the knowledge to create others like it. But remember, power. Shared grows stronger while power hoarded grows corrupt. The architect ships began to fade, not departing but transitioning to dimensions where physical form was optional. Their final message carried across the system like a benediction. Make the impossible possible, young architects. Show the universe that even the laws of reality can be improved with enough stubbornness and heart. Months later, Alex stood in the observation deck of what had become known as the Embassy of the Impossible. The dead system now hosted a permanent research station where hundreds of species worked together to push the boundaries of science and understanding. The transcendent dream had become the flagship of a new kind of civilization, one that treated impossibility as an opportunity rather than a threat. Dr. Walsh approached, carrying a report from the medical research teams. "Alex, we've made another breakthrough. The reality manipulation techniques are allowing us to cure diseases that were previously incurable. We're literally editing them out of existence." Tara emerged from the engineering section, covered in grease that shifted colors as it moved. "The new ships are coming along nicely. Each one is designed for a different species psychology, but they all share the same core principle. Cooperation makes impossibility easier to achieve." Admiral Vorthak had become the embassy's chief administrator, his organizational skills perfectly suited to managing controlled chaos. "Captain Rivera, we've received requests from 47 new species who want to join the research program. It seems word is spreading that impossible problems can have impossible solutions." Alex smiled, feeling the transcendent dream humming contentedly around him. The ship had found its purpose at last, not as a weapon or a tool of conquest, but as a bridge between what was and what could be. "Echo," he said to the ship's AI, "any regrets about choosing the stubborn humans?" "None whatsoever," Echo replied. "Though I do wish you had figured out the bathroom controls sooner. That was getting embarrassing." Alex laughed, and somewhere in the dimensions beyond normal space, he felt the architects laughing with him. The impossible had become possible, through the simple expedient of refusing to accept that it couldn't be done. And that, Alex reflected, was the most human thing of all.